Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events, along with some other really good mods. We'll get the ball rolling here as we are still very much in the build-up phase. A few trade agreements gone through. Let's take a quick look here and see how Spain is doing. Looks like they've actually maybe grown a little bit here. But they're obviously cut off here, but just barely. You just took that province. So the Spanish War goes on. My understanding, the way it's set up, if the majority of the country... Oh, Poland has just stolen some blueprints from ourselves. Let's take a quick look there. Okay. As well. Still have counter-espionage. If, like, the majority of Spain, particularly the capital, is in nationalist hands, sometime in 1939 there's just going to be a decision that gives the war to Spain, to the nationalists. But if the Republicans have made significant grounds and holding significant territory, then they win. You know, just simply by, some sort of judgment of things, and not by necessarily fully defeating it. Okay, assault gliders. Where am I? That's good. We got that tech. I don't use assault gliders much because they're slow, they have very limited range, and they have rather good carrying capacity. And it sort of, I guess, matches historically what they were good for and the way they were used. Taking a quick look. Self-sealing fuel tanks. There we go. That would be a good one. A little tiny bit of tech rush before 38, but not much of one. Yep. And, oh, looks like either Japan's made landings, which is quite possible, or the Chinese have counterattacked, retaken a little bit there because they have these pockets here. Don't know which it is. That almost looks like landings, but I don't know. But for them, that's good. For us, I guess it's also good that they got these Tinsin. Is what I would call that. Tinsin. That province there, because they can flow in supplies, and hopefully they're doing so. Okay, and we also got this tech here, which is morale of some sort. Okay, infantry unit command and control. We'll switch it over here to armored unit command and control. So it looks like the Japanese are somewhat on the move here. So I would like to, get the clock rolling. I would like them to successfully take China down. Preferably before the start of the General War. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I would like them to be able to do some major operations against India, the Burma-India front, and down here in Indonesia. Okay, yes, we will do that. We need to sell somebody our supplies. Okay, Soviet Union. Big, but not too big. We're considerably in the deficit right now. Mountain HQ advances various technologies other than just simply giving us, special forces. Improves, reduces out time between attack. There's 2 of these. Level 2 is 1 hour, so I'm presuming each one of these is half an hour improvement. We're going to switch it over to here to get us SSHQs. I use those mainly to organize up my various anti-partisan SS units. Though Revolver Held has some really nice police HQs that I think he's tweaked and improved a little bit better. Not sure how I'm going to organize things up when I get his units in place, because I like to go historically, and it's sort of a, I don't know, mixed bag with the SS. They controlled the police, but the police weren't part of them, but a lot of the police upper ranks were also SS upper ranks, so okay, so we got these. I had a few went in that were just before came in and put up here that to replace them, but as you see, they're all coming in pretty quickly here. We built a lot more ICs this game than last. I did not, for TRE or this playthrough, I did not change the build cost or build times for any of these factories there. Just whatever the current, and I'm using Black Ice 8.2, whatever it is, and I don't think I changed over last time any of the placement of ICs from the last playthrough that via events. And also has, you can see, one up here and a couple of mixed somewhere in here, down in here, convoys, because we're almost out of convoys as it is, so we're building those to keep the flow. And I think as we get more of these factories in, we're going to be needing them, so for trades, because we're doing a lot of small trades and some of them at considerable distance. I think both distance and the amount has a bearing on how, maybe it's just distance, on how many are all the way down at 4.19 for each IC we're building. It's a little heavier concentration on it. Okay, at least right now we're in positive territory there, but we need to see about finding, let's look at some of our more likely. Okay, they may be willing to. Yeah, no. See, I'm doing it myself by asking for small trades. I don't want a very long distance. If it has some rare materials. We'll be needing more than this, but okay, armored car designs have advanced. That's very nice. We'll move that over to gasoline engines. Now, we've gotten a boost from the various events like car shows and similar things that I look at them as non-government directed research into automotive engine technology, but I presume that could also be suspensions and similar things, and particularly armored cars, obviously, but also tank engines, I think, are very, very similar to truck engines. Sort of power over rotation speed, high rotation speed car, for race cars, but it all sort of, the research goes hand in hand, and it's not purely a linear progression. At least this is the way I view it, of these things. And obviously some are higher and lower numbers that affects research speed, but I look at it as non-government directed. So okay, we're in the red there. barely there. Okay, let's see. First I want to look at who are we shipping steel out to, if anybody. No. And who out of the usual suspects? What's it looking for steel? They got lots, so let's see if they'll sell me some. I just want to not deficit now, but we're barely keeping up with all of this. Now, this number here will be affected greatly as these come up. And how close are we to this? Okay, so steel production, oil, rare materials, coal processing. And this is also built in. Some of these numbers are more variable because of the new building types and how they've been balanced in and how they affect things. So that's a bit of a change from previous ones, which is making steel a little bit more of a imperative compared to it. Germany, I don't know if, I'm just thinking as I'm speaking, any of you heard of Signal magazine? It was sort of the wartime picture magazine of the German Wehrmacht. Way back when I was younger, they first did one and then two more books of highlights from the magazine in English. They printed the magazine in English for the Channel Islands, and that was it. And once they lost the Channel Islands, so the English versions start in 40 and end sometime in 44, because they lost contact with the Channel Islands. Though they let the Channel Islands sit there under German occupation for a long time, just because they didn't want to battle over it. So it was occupied longer, but they didn't. And so it's obviously propaganda, but they talk about Germans, how great Germany is, and some of the things, some of the articles and graphics, and one of them was talking about Germany's power supply set up with lots and lots of coal that they had, and they also talked about various dams for hydroelectric power that they put in as well. So they had lots of power, but we're starting to see some some needs to import there. So let's see, what does Sweden have? Does Sweden have excess power? Not really. Norway might. No, they don't look like they have excess power. Buy some from Switzerland. See if Britain will sell us some power. Won't be cheap, but we'll do that. That'll help a bit. And from the US, let's see if we can buy some rare materials, because we're going to be needing a lot more as more of those factories come online. In the Soviet Union, we're going to see if we can sell bunch of good supplies. Somebody stole our blueprints, but we don't know who this time. And Bulgaria, money for rare materials, certainly. We do have spies. Counter-espionage is fairly high. And now we can see spies we've got are 20. And we have 3 spies here in Germany. Oh, we just got a bunch more here. So, okay, now, as I said, we're going to go till 1938 and only produce factories. I'm changing my mind at this moment because, well, we're 40 days out from it, and we're going to continue building more. Obviously, all these factories are going to be built, and we're going to definitely continue in any province like Kiel that until we have it maxed out at 10. If we have one of these, I'm going to eventually max it out at 10. So we will be doing that in locations. So that is a definite. But now that these are going to come, and as Herman suggested, though he's not posting as much as he did last series, that we should max out in 38 with build nothing but air. Not going to quite do that, but since we've got all of these that are about ready to hit, which will lower our practicals, raise the practicals, I guess, but lower the production cost. We're going to put some of these into the queue. Also, because if you watched my last series, you know how I like to use my submarines, and they have a good use for coastal submarines as well as just building up practicals. We'll put some of those in. So what we're going to do is move these to the bottom. Now, I don't want to flood the zone because obviously once these things start hitting, these will no longer cost. We're almost down to 4 ICs for an IC. Not going to be, it was going to free up a massive amount of ICs. I don't want huge waves of fighters and then another huge wave of fighters and then another huge wave of fighters. I think it's better. Now maybe somebody can do the math and show that it's not. But when these get about halfway down their production cycle here, start another one. So it's sort of a bit staggered. You know, not exactly halfway, but you get the point. So that there's always some sort of like this, that there's some here, and then there's some here about ready to hit. And obviously some of these will be in something of a wave, but then you'll get these guys that are down here that aren't, and are going to be at the halfway stage when these guys are getting finished. That's the way I think it works best. Again, I'm saying I think because that's my perception, not necessarily that I've done the math. And if you want to post like a few other people have been there, various build strategies, tactics, I am far from the last word in the best way to play it. And I'm just imparting my plan, my ideas, and take them for what they are as my ideas, and you can see whether you want to follow them or somebody else's that maybe have better ones. I'm going to save this here. Okay. Let's see if we can sell some supplies to the U.S. Especially seeing as how I just bought a bunch of rare materials, which have them having a lot of income. To help get the balance of trade appropriate. Italy. Fuel for money, certainly. France, money for rare materials, no. I'm gonna conquer you and just take your rare materials when the time comes. Okay, Uruguay. Okay, I sort of maybe hope to get them in the Alliance or the Axis someday. Okay, heavy bomber prototypes have advanced. That is great. So we've got that improved. 4-engine planes. I'm going to let these sit for the moment. We're going to research here. Greece. I want to take yours later. Okay. We'll get to this in a minute. Okay, wing aerodynamics have advanced. That's good. And we will shift that over to supercharger. We're almost to 38 anyway, so improve our fighters. And somebody got away with our blueprints. Man, we're getting stolen a lot more than we're stealing this time. Now we've got free spies, active spies abroad is 18, and active domestic spies are 10. So we're currently full up on spies and a little bit spread out. I don't know how much that spread affects things. Okay, on the Anti-Comintern Pact. As I pointed out earlier in this, it was, and I'm sure you messed this up by popping up top here. That's a little better. I believe that's Ribbentrop, Mussolini, and I forget the Japanese ambassador. May say so there. Started out by Hungarian suggestion that they were pushing forward. They ended up dropping out of it fairly early. So it became just a German-Japanese initially, and then we have this opportunity of Italy joining now on November 6th there. So we can, if we've, I'm just trying to remember the coding. Are they forced into the Axis? I'm not sure if they take no whether they're still forced into the Axis or not. I know at one stage, either here or the Pact of Steel, and we said yes to the Pact of Steel, you have to say no to, or maybe you have to say no to both of these to not force them into the Axis at some point. But this will, if we lobby them to do it, we will cost us some money and supplies to do that. We will gain some popularity and national unity a little bit because, you know, have allies. Germany's no longer alone, that kind of thing. But we lose some neutrality and we lose some relations with various governments. But yes, we want to go down this. Improves our relations, manpower back from building air bases. We'll get another air base event soon. And notice we, by lowering or raising our national unity, we are a minor way reducing our costs, our consumer good costs. Lots of factories still building. In the U.S., money for rare materials. Alright. Turkey, most definitely. No. No. Okay. mediation of the Sino-Japanese conflict. No, we're gonna let Japan have its head do what it wants. We're not gonna try to step into it. I don't know that it violates the Anti-Comintern Pact. I know it's saying that there, but I don't know that it does. To my knowledge, Nationalist China was never a signer of the Anti-Comintern Pact, but I don't know. Alright, someone may have looked that up. I haven't, so... Okay, Jagdfliegerschule, hunting, flying school, so I presume that's for fighters. Remember, this is from, GGA. So this will be in a school here, more officers, use of manpower. Alright, we will go with this. Better than not. And yes, we'll give you fuel for money. We're barely on the positive side for steel. It is worrying me a little bit. I think I have some events to check for steel, and I'm used to the idea of steel as being some commodity that is just, who cares, because Germany over gets it. This is interesting. Panzerroot, you're making an interesting game. You know, that's what you want to do. And notice I'm not saying it's not historical, because Germany did need to import steel. I don't know how much at this point. Country waiting, maybe making extra steel. Really? A little bit, so lots of extra. Very good. Share. If I have to, I'll take it from somebody I want to evade, but I would prefer not. No, I don't want to. They don't like me as much after that Anti-Comintern kind of stuff. So, push this a little more into the positive realm. Hoping things get better once we get some of these industrial technologies here. Steel production up by, what's that? 8%, 36%, 13%, full 15%. Well, those are very minor. They've really nerfed those down. Okay, what's that? Recon technology, I believe. Yes, recon unit coordination development. Level 3. Shift over to there. Now we're at 110% officers I'm seeing, so we're going to again, we still have plenty of diplomats. Don't know if we have plenty of spies, but we have a few free. I'm not going to gut my officer training program, but I'm reducing it down. There we go. Okay, now just taking a quick look around and realizing that we're already in December here. From almost at 38. Do some heavy tank research. And spotting has advanced. Good. We're going to still keep command decision making, I think. A little bit of development in the naval world. Doctrines. Okay, fuselage aerodynamics has improved. And we're going to shift it to medium fuel tank research there. Okay, Polish minority. While the SDP has been agitating in Czechoslovakia for German rights, I don't know how much this was either Polish government sponsored or simply the Polish minorities in Czechoslovakia seeing the obvious fracturing of Czechoslovak society, and we never really get into too much into the Slovak question here, but they were also doing their thing. And I think I mentioned this in the first series, and I don't know if I said it earlier here. I grew up being educated that Czechoslovakia was one country, and that Germany or Hitler forced the Slovaks at sort of an ultimatum, saying, you either declare yourself independent or we're going to take you too, as part of Nazi aggression. And they only did that because of German pressure. Now, I had to change my opinion once the Warsaw Pact fell apart, because one of the first things, it seems to me, was the Slovakia declaring its independence from Czechoslovakia and forming two countries. Now, I'm not disputing the idea that there was a massive amount of pressure, and I probably maybe should have saved this for when Slovakia was formed, but massive, and I probably will go over this again then too, sorry, but that there wasn't pressure to do it at that time by Hitler on the Slovaks. But because as soon as they had the next opportunity to, they pushed for their independence again. So there must be a Slovak, in my opinion. Again, I can be wrong. I have not been to Slovakia, but a Slovak national desire to be their own country, whether completely independent or as part of a greater framework. Greater framework could be something like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that's a huge multicultural empire, or the EU. Please don't mistake the idea that if the EU continues to being the EU, and I see Germany pushing other countries that they've got to take a certain amount of refugees, and there's a bunch of other regulations, that this isn't forming, in my opinion, a bureaucratic Austro-Hungarian Empire. It may not be a centralized dictatorship or monarchy or emperor or Kaiser like in the Austro-Hungarian or earlier Holy Roman Empire, especially when the Habsburgs also had all of the Low Countries until the Protestant ones broke off and had all of Spain. The EU is a bureaucratic version, because can anyone tell me who's in charge of the EU? You might look it up on YouTube to find out that somebody is the president of the EU Parliament or something that would theoretically be, but I'm absolutely sure he has little or no power in reality. And it's bureaucrats, and bureaucrats are unelected and are largely uncontrolled by legislatures. Anyone who thinks different, especially on large things, is mistaken. So if Europe continues down the EU road, and EU is different than NATO, EU is different than a series of treaties, a series of free trade zones. Free trade zones meaning Italy does whatever it wants and France does whatever it wants, and there's no tariff barriers going back and forth, and I don't know, they have to meet each country's nation's safety standards for food safety or whatever. Sure, so food made in Italy has to meet French safety standards, whether they're higher or lower than Italy, but each country, that's different. Having a big free trade zone is one thing. Having bureaucracies that control it, you're moving into a statehood, which loses your other statehood. But so whether within a framework or as independent, the Slovaks, I'm very much digressing, get back on topic, wanted their independence. Well, Poland also agitated, or the Poles were agitating for, particularly right in here, to become part of Poland as well. And when the pressure was mounting, when the getting very much for the Sudeten crisis, Poland was agitating for its piece of the pie, as opposed to standing with Czechoslovakia against Germany. They were happy to go along with dismembering Czechoslovakia. And seeing as how they're a country that has a significant German minority, particularly in this region, and seeing as how there are other people out here, particularly the Soviet Union, that either would want to dismember them or take them as a whole, that they should have been standing with the idea that current borders shall not be changed. Standing on that principle. But obviously they didn't, so things, it helped things fall apart. But there wasn't purely a German push to dismantle Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakian national identity. And George, if you want to post here or somewhere else, you can try to correct me. I don't know if it hardly ever really existed. I know you grew up in Czechoslovakia under the Iron Curtain, and now live in the Czech Republic, and I'm sure there's a Czech national identity. I'm not trying to dismiss that at all, and obviously the Germans didn't feel it, that grew up as part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I don't know about the Germans being born and growing up in this version of Czechoslovakia, and the Slovaks didn't seem to feel it. And then they also had Hungarian minorities as parts of, or other minorities that Hungary claimed, if you will. So that's just sort of my feelings with this. But the historical fact, and this is commentary, meaning I'm giving my thoughts, not just straight historical knowledge. The events very much are historical. So there's a delegation of Polish minorities, gave Minister Milan Hodza their requests. So this Czechoslovakia gets event. This is mostly an event, just notifying us. And also a realization that most people playing Hearts of Iron or Black Ice aren't playing Poland or Czechoslovakia, so we get to know what's going on. Oh, lost one for fuel. Let's take a quick look at Spain. They're still holding that narrow corridor closed. I think that was for a while. Republican Nationalists got it back, and I think they're trading back and forth a few provinces there. The other action, okay, now we see here, this is clearly, I don't know whether the Chinese counterattacked or what, but clearly the they're all too far away because I don't have any allies to base the ship out. I have to go do any observations here. They've clearly broken out. The Chinese are holding that river line there, but it looks like the Japanese are holding this river line back there and are expanding, so that is good. Fairly good for 1937 as a start. If the Chinese are able to make big enough stacks and are able to rotate in and out divisions to hold that line, they can grind down the smaller numbers but superior Japanese army. And the Japanese army should be superior to the Chinese army. It's just unfortunately a fact. Not comment on quality of people, just fact on equipment and training levels and similar such. And obviously they're pushing in here. Alright, well I think that's going to be the end of the episode. I don't know of any other particular action to show you. Okay, thanks for viewing. We will be continuing this with the next episode. Sorry, I'm losing the ability to talk.